Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy, and unfortunately, Kara's not with us this week. She is going to be jetting off to New York in a few days for the New York Anime Convention, so that's why she is not with us this week. So since Kara's not here and recently we've had a bunch of storms happen on Tuesday. We've had nonstop rain for the past 3 days, and where I live in Ohio, we've been experiencing a lot of flooding, so a lot of roads near us have been shut down due to the flooding. So there's a lot going on. But I do have a story for us today, so I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to go roll right into it. So what if I told you that there was a place in New Jersey where people have claimed you can walk underground, past satanic graffiti, past bones and abandoned tunnels, through darkness so complete you can't even see your own hand in front of you. And eventually you reach a place that locals have called the Gates of Hell. And no, I'm not talking about some abandoned cemetery, and I'm not talking about an old haunted mansion, and I'm definitely not talking about a volcano. I'm talking about a storm drain. Yep, a storm drain. But this particular storm drain has developed one hell of a reputation. It's hidden beneath Clifton, New Jersey, and for decades teenagers, urban explorers, and thrill seekers have told stories about what supposedly lies beneath the streets. Some say that there are 7 levels to hell, which is like from Dante's story. Some say there are satanic meeting rooms, and others even say that people have disappeared inside. And then there's the story of a mysterious figure known as Red-Eyed Mike. So tonight, grab your flashlight, stay close, and whatever you do, don't get separated from the group. Because tonight on the Two Scaredy Cats, we're going into the Gates of Hell. So I want to start out with something important before we get too far into this. The Gates of Hell isn't exactly a gate per se. There isn't a giant stone doorway with the words "Abandon all hope" carved into it, like you see in all the movies. And the location is in Clifton, New Jersey, in Passaic County. And what people call the Gates of Hell is actually a network of underground drainage tunnels. And the tunnels were constructed to help carry runoff from Wesselbrook, particularly during heavy rains. That alone is enough to make me say nope, because imagine being underground in a storm drain and suddenly it starts raining. The little trickle of water you've been casually walking through or beside suddenly becomes a raging river. And that's one reason the place is genuinely dangerous, even without anything supernatural going on. But here's where things get interesting. Because over the years, the tunnels have developed a reputation that was much darker than their original purpose or intention. The place became a favorite destination for adventurous local teenagers and urban explorers. And eventually, the stories began. The entrances to the tunnel system look pretty ordinary. They're made of concrete, there's darkness inside, there's graffiti all around, and nothing particularly supernatural screams out about that, what we see. But once you enter, the atmosphere totally changes. According to descriptions of the tunnel, they become dark very quickly. People say that you can hear strange noises in there as you're walking through. And some sections are large enough for a person to walk through. Other areas are so tight and require you to crawl. And the deeper you go, the less you can see, which is probably where the human imagination takes over. Because once you're standing underground with nothing around you except concrete walls, darkness, and the sound of your own footsteps, every noise becomes something. A drip of water could be somebody following you. A distant train, something moving underground. A shadow could become a person, or maybe even something else. And that, my friends, is how legends grow. One of the most famous legends surrounding the tunnels is that they contain 7 levels, supposedly corresponding to the 7 circles of hell. The deeper you travel, the closer you're supposedly getting to the underworld. Now here's where we have to put our skeptical hats on. There isn't reliable evidence that the tunnels were intentionally constructed as 7 levels representing hell. That's completely folklore, or legend if you want to call it that. And according to the legend, the deeper you go, the stranger things supposedly become. Some stories claim explorers encountered bones. Others talk about decaying animal remains. Some tell of crosses and satanic symbols. And then there are the stories about secret rooms where satanic rituals supposedly took place. There's even a legend about a room guarded by enormous axes. And if you somehow manage to get past them, you'll find a glowing human skull. And beyond that, apparently, is Satan himself. But perhaps the strangest legend connected to the gates of hell is the story of Red-Eyed Mike. And the name does sound like something you absolutely do not want to encounter while you're underground. Imagine walking through the pitch-dark black tunnel. Your flashlight is beginning to flicker, and you hear something behind you. You turn around. Nothing. You turn back, and standing 20 feet ahead of you is a man. You shine your flashlight towards him, and his eyes are glowing red. Yeah. At that point, I'm done investigating, and I'm running. And I'm running as fast as I can to get out of here. But here's the thing. There isn't reliable historical evidence proving that Red-Eyed Mike is real supernatural entity. He's part of the folklore that grew up around the location, and that distinction matters. Because the gates of hell is a perfect example how an ordinary place can be something much bigger through storytelling. One person tells a story, someone adds another detail, someone else says they heard something, and then someone writes it down. And eventually, you have a legend. Some of the darkest stories connected to the gates of hell involve supposed satanic activity. Over the years, people have claimed the tunnels were used for satanic rituals. There are stories of sacrifices, bones, animal carcasses, upside-down crosses, and satanic graffiti. And now, there really has been graffiti inside the tunnels. That's well documented, and I have some pictures I can post on our Instagram page to show you. But there's no solid evidence establishing that human sacrifices occurred here. That's where we have to separate the creepy story from the historical record. Because the truth is, we don't need to invent a murderous cult to make this tunnel frightening. It's already creepy enough as it is. And this is where things get interesting, because although we can't prove the supernatural stories, people have actually gone into these tunnels, and some claim they experienced things they cannot explain. One particularly interesting account comes from a person posting about their experience in a New Jersey discussion forum. They said that they and several friends had entered the gates of hell and eventually traveled approximately a mile into the tunnel system. Now, they had been traveling for quite some time, and at some point, the person decided to get a little cocky, and we all know how this turns out or ends up in horror movies. They ran ahead of the group, and their friends were behind them with flashlights, and then they saw something. The person described seeing what appeared to be a silhouette of someone, or perhaps something, standing in front of them in the darkness, illuminated by the light coming from their friends behind them. They said they immediately turned around, and in the process ended up falling into the water, and that was enough. They stopped messing around, and they got out quickly. Now, is that proof that Red-Eyed Mike was walking underground? No. Could it have been one of their friends? Maybe. Could the shadows and flashlight beams have created an optical illusion? Probably. Could somebody else have been inside the tunnel with them? A possibility. But here's the thing about eyewitnesses' accounts. You don't have to believe the explanation to find the experience fascinating. Now, there was also another story I came across about a group of friends that went into the gates of hell. And they had gone there because they had read about it in the Weird New Jersey website. And they decided they were going to go check it out. So they started walking down into the tunnel system. And they were pretty far down in there. And when they got down in there, they said that they started hearing music playing, like opera music. And then they started hearing chanting. Now, because of all the folklore and stuff that surrounds these tunnels, they decided for their own well-being they needed to hurry up and get out, because they thought maybe that there was some type of satanic ritual going on, and they did not want to end up as one of their sacrifices. So at that point, they hurried up and got the heck out of Dodge before they ended up, on the evening news. And remember, when you're a mile underground in a tunnel, it's in almost completely in complete darkness, it's going to be pretty terrifying. And here's something I really want to emphasize to everybody. The gates of hell don't need ghosts to be dangerous. These tunnels are legitimate storage drains. Water can rise quickly, visibility can disappear, and there are unstable areas. And there have been real accidents involving people exploring the location. For example, in 2017, a rescue team reportedly had to rescue an injured explorer after the person fell approximately 20 feet through a metal grate. So if you're listening to this and thinking, hey, that sounds like a fun weekend adventure, please remember that the Gates of Hell is not a haunted attraction. It is an actual drainage system. And exploring underground tunnels can be extremely dangerous. So maybe enjoy this one from the safety of your couch, preferably with the lights on. Here's the question, though, that I keep coming back to while I was researching the story. Why does a storm drain become the gates of hell? Why this place? Why not every storm drain we've ever come across in our hometowns? And I think part of the answer is the environment itself. Think about it. You're underground. There's no windows, you're surrounded by concrete, no sunlight, and no normal sense of direction. You can get very disoriented very easily. Your footsteps make echoing noises, you hear water drips nearby, and your flashlight will catch shadows that move every time you move your hands. So your brain is desperately trying to figure out what's around you. And we're very good about detecting patterns, especially when we're scared. So a shadow seems to me to become a person, or a reflection off maybe some of the rocks that are in the cement that made the tunnels could look like somebody's eyes, are gleaming at me. And once you've heard the stories about Red-Eyed Mike, you might start looking for red eyes. That's psychology. But there's another possibility, and this is where I want to leave the door cracked open, because sometimes people experiencing things they can't easily explain, and we don't always know whether the explanation is psychological, environmental, or something else. The gates of hell have been featured in New Jersey folklore for years, including coverage in the Weird New Jersey, which helps spread the story to a much wider audience. And that's important, because once a location becomes famous for being haunted, people start visiting specifically hoping to experience something. And when people go looking for something strange, sometimes they find it. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's suggestion, maybe it's just their adrenaline, and maybe it's the darkness. Or maybe, just maybe, there's something about certain places that make us feel like we're not alone. And Clifton's Gates of Hell has definitely earned its reputation as one of those places. So, are the gates of hell actually a gateway to the underworld? I'm going to say probably not. Sorry, Satan. But it is creepy. But is it creepy? Absolutely. Is there evidence of actual satanic sacrifices? Not that has been verified. Is Red-Eyed Mike real? We don't have any reliable sources proving that he is. And did someone really see a figure standing inside the tunnel? According to one person's account, yes, that did happen. But what that figure actually was, well, that's still a mystery. And honestly, that's what makes this story so much fun. Because underneath all the wild legends is something very real. A dark underground tunnel system. A place where people have gone exploring for decades. A place with dangerous conditions. And a place covered in creepy graffiti. It's a place more than one person has walked into the darkness and come back out saying something was in there. So the next time somebody tells you that New Jersey is just turnpikes, diners, and people yelling at you for driving too slowly, remember, there's a storm drain beneath Clifton that has earned a much darker name, the Gates of Hell. Maybe it's nothing more than concrete, water, and decades of teenage storytelling. Maybe even strange sounds has an ordinary explanation. And maybe Red-Eyed Mike is nothing more than a character created by bored teenagers looking for a good scare. Or maybe, just maybe, there are places where the line between folklore and reality starts to get a little blurry. And if you're ever walking through the darkness of an underground tunnel and you suddenly hear footsteps behind you, don't automatically assume it's your imagination, because you never know. Maybe it's the sound of water, maybe it's your own footsteps echoing back at you, or maybe it's Red-Eyed Mike. And if you see two glowing red eyes staring back at you, well, you didn't hear this from me, but run. Well, that's all we have time for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this tale about the gates of hell in New Jersey. I know it was very interesting when I started doing research on this. And that's all I have for this week, I guess. So we will talk to you all again in 2 weeks. And remember to give us a review you can find us on Apple Podcast or on YouTube. The review, sharing this with other people really helps us get discovered. And remember, to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.